January 31st, 2000. A passenger jet carrying 88 people is flying over the Pacific Ocean. Suddenly, the pilots report a terrifying problem. The aircraft's nose begins pointing downward. Passengers are thrown from their seats. The pilots fight desperately to save everyone on board. For nearly 10 minutes, they perform what many call one of the greatest struggles in aviation history. But despite their courage, Flight 261 is about to become one of America's most heartbreaking aviation disasters. And what investigators discover afterward will expose a hidden maintenance problem that should never have happened. This is the story of Alaska Airlines Flight 261, a routine flight, an experienced crew, a modern aircraft, and a mechanical failure so catastrophic that once it began, every second became a race against death. Stay with me until the end, because the final cockpit recordings reveal just how hard these pilots fought to save their passengers. On January 31st, 2000, Alaska Airlines Flight 261 departed Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Its destination was Seattle, Washington. The aircraft was a McDonnell Douglas MD-83, a popular and reliable airplane used by airlines across North America. On board were 83 passengers and 5 crew members. The captain was Ted Thompson, a highly experienced pilot with thousands of flight hours. His first officer, Bill Tansky, was equally respected. The weather was good, the airplane appeared healthy, nothing seemed unusual. Passengers settled into their seats. Some read magazines, others listened to music. Families chatted about vacations. For everyone on board, this was supposed to be just another flight home. No one knew disaster had already begun developing inside the aircraft's tail section. A tiny component most passengers had never heard of was slowly failing, and within hours it would place all 88 lives in danger. Several hours into the flight, the crew noticed something strange. The aircraft's horizontal stabilizer was not responding normally. This component controls the aircraft's pitch. In simple terms, it helps the airplane point its nose up or down. Without it, controlling the aircraft becomes extremely difficult. The pilots attempted troubleshooting procedures. Initially, the problem seemed manageable, but then the situation worsened. The stabilizer became stuck. Inside the cockpit, concern began turning into alarm. The crew contacted Alaska Airlines maintenance personnel. They discussed possible solutions. At first, no one fully understood how serious the problem had become. The pilots remained calm, professional, focused, but they knew something was very wrong. A commercial airliner should never lose control of its stabilizer, and if the system completely failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. The crew requested permission to divert. Air traffic controllers cleared them toward Los Angeles. The pilots hoped to land safely before conditions deteriorated further, but time was running out. Suddenly, the stabilizer moved unexpectedly. The nose of the aircraft dropped violently. Passengers screamed. Cabin crew struggled to remain standing. Loose objects flew through the cabin. The aircraft entered a steep dive. Inside the cockpit, alarms sounded. Warning lights flashed. The pilots immediately pulled back on their controls. For a moment, it looked impossible, yet somehow they regained control. The airplane leveled out. It was one of the most remarkable recoveries ever recorded. But the battle was far from over. The stabilizer remained severely damaged, and the next failure would be even worse. Flight 261 continued toward California. Controllers could hear tension growing in the pilots' voices. The crew worked continuously. Every action required immense physical effort. Then, disaster struck. The stabilizer failed completely. The aircraft suddenly pitched downward again. This time, the situation was far more severe. The pilots attempted every recovery technique available. For several terrifying moments, the airplane rolled inverted. An airliner carrying passengers was now upside down over the Pacific Ocean. People on board experienced forces few commercial passengers ever encounter. The cockpit voice recorder captured intense efforts to save the aircraft. Captain Thompson and First Officer Tansky never stopped fighting. They remained focused until the very end. Investigators later said their actions likely prolonged the flight and gave everyone on board a chance. But physics was winning. The damaged stabilizer had removed the crew's ability to fully control the airplane. Altitude disappeared rapidly. The ocean surface rushed closer. Controllers watched helplessly on radar. Witnesses on nearby boats saw the aircraft descending. Then, at approximately 4:22 p.m. Pacific Time, Flight 261 struck the Pacific Ocean. No one survived. 88 lives were lost. Immediately after the crash, investigators launched a massive operation. The National Transportation Safety Board took charge. Recovery teams searched the Pacific Ocean. Flight recorders were eventually recovered. The evidence revealed something shocking. The stabilizer's jack screw assembly had worn down dramatically. This component depended on proper lubrication and maintenance. Over time, metal wear became severe. Eventually, the threads failed. When that happened, pilots lost the ability to control the stabilizer correctly. Investigators now had a crucial question. How could such extreme wear go unnoticed? The investigation uncovered serious maintenance concerns. Lubrication intervals had been extended, inspection schedules had changed, critical wear measurements had not detected the growing danger. Experts concluded that inadequate maintenance contributed significantly to the disaster. The findings shocked the aviation industry. Because this wasn't caused by weather or terrorism or pilot error, it was a preventable mechanical failure, one hidden inside a system passengers never see. The crash became a major warning, a reminder that even small maintenance decisions can have enormous consequences. Following the investigation, regulators introduced important safety improvements. Inspection procedures were strengthened, maintenance requirements became stricter, airlines reviewed stabilizer systems across their fleets. Manufacturers also examined design vulnerabilities. The goal was simple: make sure this never happens again. The lessons learned from Flight 261 continue influencing aviation safety today. More than 2 decades later, Alaska Airlines Flight 261 remains one of the most powerful examples of courage in aviation history. The pilots never gave up. They fought for every second, every foot of altitude, every chance to save their passengers. And although they could not prevent the tragedy, their determination left a lasting mark on aviation history. Flight 261 is remembered not only for how it ended, but for the extraordinary effort made to avoid that ending. In memory of the 88 lives lost aboard Alaska Airlines Flight 261.